Thank you, Prof. John. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation today is going to be complementing what Mrs. Vimala had mentioned just now. And it's an honor actually to be here because the Malaysian Dietary Supplement, we work with supplements, and very seldom do we get to interact with doctors regarding supplements. Doctors are very familiar with drugs, but not so much with supplements. Or so we think. Right? So as I start, we all have heard that a picture paints 1,000 words. So I just want you to just take a moment to reflect on this image of this person on the screen and what comes to your mind. What are the things that this person is telling you? Can anybody volunteer some information? Worried, sick. And I think one of the earlier speakers also mentioned about depression. He looks frail. We know it's a man, for sure. And also from the body language, we can see maybe there's sadness there as well. Sorry. Yeah, because of no money as well. Right? So, and I am privileged to be talking about this topic because I think it's something of interest to doctors. And as I look around the room, I think easily about 50% fall in this category of older persons as well. And what we want to see is there a role for natural supplements if you are not already using? And if you are using, as Mrs. Vimala had mentioned just now, there are so much of interesting things that you can find in vegetables or in plants. But I'll be talking about more than just vegetables. So what is the role of natural supplements? I hope in this 30 minutes, I'll be able to convince you to start using supplements if you haven't already, to consider it in your practice. Now, one of the first things I normally do when I do a presentation is search for images. And when I went to my usual site where I look for images, when I keyed in the word senior or elderly, what I noticed in the first 5 pages, 30% of the images are all black and white. And I was thinking, why is it that when I search for infants, children, it is colorful images, but for elderly, it's totally different? Is this a reflection of their life? You know, it is all black and white and gray. So I hope by the end, in the next 30 minutes, you will be able to see that supplements may be able to bring some color into their life and some gaiety as well in their last remaining lives, whether it's in their third age or fourth age. Now, this is, I think you may have seen some of this data, and the Malaysian Dietary Supplement Association has actually commissioned market research, which we are launching next week actually. And one of the things that we have detected is, I think you have seen the statistics being revealed earlier from several speakers. We are having more and more elderly people in this country. That's a given already now. Every age segment is increasing in Malaysia. And I think you have seen the numbers already, but it is interesting to note that the elderly population in Malaysia is growing by 5 times more than the general population. That is why you see it's plus 75 versus plus 18 for the general population. So from 3 million today, in 12 years' time, just in 12 years, we will have 5 million plus elderly people. And the definition of elderly here is 60 and above. And also, from 15%, which is an aging society, we are going to hit, from 10% today, we're going to hit 15%, which is the definition for an aged society. Now, I just want to have you look at these conditions and diseases that the elderly suffer from. Now, I'm sure in your clinical practice, whether in private sector or in public, you would have come across patients who have either one or several of these conditions concomitantly. Right? We don't need to go through all of this. So I'll be covering some of the benefits of supplements in some of these areas. Now, this is from the Department of Statistics in 2017. It says that the number one cause of death among elderly people is pneumonia. It's a surprise because when I was with Sanofi, we had a vaccine for pneumonia. And it is actually in the government blue book as well. So it's a surprise that, of course, this could not be due to infection, could be other reasons as well. But then it's preventable. And I can tell you that the vaccines usage when I was in Sanofi among the elderly was very, very low. Besides that, the next two, we see a heart disease as well as cerebrovascular accidents. And then you find some cancers along as well. And Mrs. Vimla was talking a lot about cancers just now, pointing out the anti-cancer benefits of several of the plants that she was growing. So let's look at this question. The question is, are we over-supplementing on OTCs? Actually, we need to expand this question. This may not be an accurate question because in Malaysia, it's not just OTCs. We also have to be concerned about Group C drugs, which the pharmacist can dish out without your prescription. And there are many elderly who go up to the pharmacy counter and actually request for this. So you will need, and you will never know, because unless you actively ask, your patient is not going to reveal this to you. And what are the products that are in this OTC or Group C list in Malaysia? Well, the usual ones. And we don't have any data in Malaysia, so I had to take something from the US. And in the US, what they found is that 40% of OTC items in the US is used by the elderly people. 40% by the elderly. And out of that, 90% are actually painkillers, which is the number one ailment that the elderly in the US face. And I'm sure that you would agree that many of your patients also have pain. So they go and get either NSAIDs, paracetamol. And then of course in Malaysia we have products like Cardipril, which doesn't need a prescription, GTN, bronchodilators, minoxidil for those who want to regrow their hair, Premarin, which is probably out of use now, but there could be still some women who are going and getting it from the pharmacies. And last but not least, antacids, as well as ranitidine and famotidine. You don't need a prescription for this. And this is one of the common ailments that we know elderly people have, dyspepsia and so on. And from our market research, this is what we have detected. The top 6 categories of supplements, health supplements in Malaysia are immune health or general health. That's where most of the vitamins and minerals fall in. So I must just warn you that we have got no clue whether how many percent of this is being purchased by the elderly, because such data doesn't exist. Maybe in the future, but for now we can probably just guess only. So there could be quite a huge number of people, elderly people, who are taking vitamins for boosting their immune health. They could also be taking products for healthy aging and beauty as well. Heart and cardiovascular health. We can conjecture that probably a large number of these people are elderly. We have bone and joint health. For sure, a large number of the people who consume this are elderly people. Meal replacement and weight loss, probably not so many healthy people. And which are the fastest growing segments? You may think that the top, which is growing at 17%, cognitive function, that is actually not for the elderly. These are products which are meant for children, school-going children. You know, we are in a country which faces the rat race, and therefore every parent wants their child to do well in exams, and that's where they are taking all the supplements for. But the rest, you can see healthy aging and beauty growing at a healthy 7%, digestive system, heart and cardiovascular health, vision and eye health, and bones and joints. These are all most probably being consumed more by the elderly rather than the young. Now, the Global Nutrition Study also showed, Global Nutrition Report showed that in Malaysia, malnutrition caused all these disabilities. And I just want to point out one thing to you only. If you look at the bottom of the slide on the y-axis, you notice that omega-3 causes, or deficiency of omega-3 causes 140,000 episodes of disabilities in Malaysia. That's very, very high. Ischemic heart disease, specifically. And last year, during the American College of Physicians meeting, internal medicine meeting, Dr. Michelle McMacken, who is an assistant professor of medicine at the New York University School of Medicine, said this in her presentation. We have the power to prevent about 80% of chronic disease through lifestyle habits. And of these, nutrition is at the top of the list. And in the previous slide, you would have seen that nutrition causes disability. So the question is, will food be able to reverse disabilities? Can we get rid of the pharma companies? Can all of you doctors stop using drugs tomorrow? Answer is no. It's not that easy. And if you notice on that slide there is a word source. When you get the soft copy of this slide, when you click on that, you will be taken to a website to download a free ebook that the Malaysian Dietary Supplement Association published a few years ago. In that, it reveals the 18 reasons why you need to take vitamins and supplements. And one of the reasons why we say that food will not reverse disease by itself is because, I'm sorry, Mrs. Vimala, this may sound disappointing, but one of the reasons is that we know that the elderly have liver dysfunction, right? Or rather gut dysfunction. So they are not able to absorb the nutrients effectively. So that will not work. Number two is the soil that we use today to grow our food is adulterated with artificial fertilizers, with insecticide. Therefore, the nutrient levels are all lower than what our grandparents were getting from food. What we eat today is insufficient actually, and that's why supplements are required. Just a little bit of background into the Malaysian supplements market. The supplements market in Malaysia is stunted just like one of the 3 disease burdens that the Global Nutrition Report shows. It is stunted because we are growing at only about 3%, and it's 2.27 billion only, so less than even 800 million US dollars. We have a market share of about 0.3% of the global supplements usage. And I'm going to reveal to you an even more shocking detail next slide. So we are growing at 3%. The global growth is 8.8%, so we're not even half. Pharma companies in Malaysia are growing between 5 and about 10% a year. So we pay a lot of lip service towards prevention being better than cure, but in practice it's the other way around. It's curing more than preventing. This is the shocking detail I want to reveal to you. Only 30% of Malaysians, this is from our market research, consume supplements. If you look at the US and Korea, it's double ours. Australia and Taiwan are much more than ours. So we are proud to be Asians. We are truly Asian, we claim. But then we do not consume supplements which Asians are supposed to be used to. But we don't see this as a dark sky. We see a silver lining here, in the sense that it shows that the potential for Malaysians to use supplements is very much higher, very high. So that brings us to the reasons why, what causes this. One could be low awareness among the Malaysian population with regards to the benefits of supplements, and especially among the B40, by the way. Number two is that we are hit with probably a high pricing structure because we have to pay SST, which pharma companies don't have to. Neither do herbal medicines have to pay SST, so only supplements. Secondly, there are import duties imposed on fish oil to protect the local fish industry. Duties import on curcumin as an ingredient, on amino acids and a few other stuff. So we are trying to lobby the government to get rid of this SST so the prices will be more affordable and more people can take supplements. And we know that the Ministry of Health or the Ministry of Finance doesn't have enough money to cater to all the 80% of the Malaysian public who flood the public system. There's insufficient money. So we're trying to speak to and convince Lim Guan Eng that, if we get rid of SST, more people will take supplements, and therefore less people will go to the public health sector, right? So let's see if that works. Now, every year we find this as well. In a few months' time, in October, we will find that MOH doesn't get enough funds for the healthcare needs. And what the government is doing is also, first, they try to impose soda tax so that obesity will be kind of controlled. But at the same time, I don't know how many of you realize that last month, the government deregulated the sugar refining industry to increase competition so that sugar price will come down. So on one hand, you're increasing sugar price, on the other hand, you're trying to decrease it. So you're sending a conflicting message to the public. So we are trying to get rid of this kind of, conflicting messages by working and engaging with the health authorities. So let's move back to supplements per se. These are the categories that supplements are in. I won't go through all of them, there were 18 here. But what you can see is these are the same things that your drugs that you use are in. It's the same therapeutic categories or therapeutic areas. And when we were asked to present this talk, and I mentioned this to the members of MATSA, some of them said, why are we doing this? Why do doctors want to know about supplements? They don't use supplements. So I just want to dispel that rumor in my next 2 slides. I'm sure many of you have used Neurobiome. Just by a simple show of hands, how many of you have used Neurobiome? Yeah, that's quite a number of you. And it is considered a supplement. It's a combination of 3 vitamin Bs used for neuropathy for so many years. Still probably being used. Number 2, anybody know what this plant is? I won't ask Mrs. Vimala. It is digitalis. And from here you extract digoxin, which has been used for heart failure for 20 years plus. Probably fallen out of favor now because we have synthetic drugs, which are probably more effective. But what I'm trying to point out here is doctors will use supplements provided there is sufficient data to support it. So now let me just go through some of these supplements, the evidence for some of this. I will not be able to go through all the supplements that exist because it is a huge number and we could probably have a 2-day workshop just on this itself. So just looking at omega-3, the 2 most common oils, omega-3 oils, are sourced from fish and krill. That's because they have high quantity of EPA and DHA. Now, flaxseed oil, which is another popular source for omega-3, unfortunately, it doesn't have EPA and DHA, it only has ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, which needs to be converted by the liver into EPA and DHA. And since we are dealing with the elderly, we know that the liver is not functioning at the normal levels anymore. So it may not be able to produce sufficient quantity of EPA and DHA. And that's the reason why fish oil and krill oil are the best sources for omega-3 supplementation. What about the benefits? The GC trial, which some of you are probably familiar with, has shown that there are benefits in heart incidences. There are also benefits with CVA, cancer, breast, colon, and prostate. So male and female breast sites, cancer sites. Osteoporosis and RA. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, memory as well. So we can see that one element has got several benefits. That's a point I'll be coming to towards the end as well. This is an example of a brand from one of our members, Pristine MOPL. This is an advanced form of omega-3 because it exists as a phospholipid, so which means you get higher bioavailability. What about vitamin D? Vitamin D exists as animal form, which is D3, and plant form, which is D2. The superior one is D3, and that's what we make when we go out into the sun. Now, I just want to share an amusing story with you. When I was in Sanofi, every year we used to have corporate global meetings in their head office in France. Normally, it is done late spring, early summer. So the sun is out and beautiful. And when we have our lunches, what normally happens is that the whites are all al fresco, dining, soaking in the sun in the open, they are dining in the open. And then the Asians and Africans are all under the shade. So we are so afraid of the sun, okay? So that's why we do not have sufficient vitamin D in our system. Last year, there was a study published in India that showed that 70% of Indians in India are deficient for vitamin D. So Indians avoid the sun. And then there are other issues as well. If you're dark-skinned, you have to spend more time in the sun. But we don't. We avoid it. And then if you're elderly also, where is your opportunity to be in the sun unless you do what Mrs. Vimala tells you to do? do gardening. But then again, how often are we gardening in the morning sun or in the evening sun? And the noon sun is apparently the best time to absorb your vitamin D. What about the benefits? So here we can see macular degeneration. There are benefits on macular degeneration for eye, benefits on heart disease, osteoporosis, RA, Alzheimer's, as well as diabetes. All right? So these are all documented. Now, I just want to give you a caution. Do not expect clinical trials at the level of the pharma companies, because clinical trials are very expensive, and most supplement companies do not have deep pockets. So they will have, if they are human studies, it will probably be phase 1, not phase 2 and 3. But we are trying to get there. What about curcumin? Every Indian in this room knows that, this has been used for 5,000 years to make our curries taste nice. But recent research has shown that the active compound in turmeric, which is curcumin, has got other properties like preventing cancers or reducing cancers, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, osteoarthritis, obesity and weight loss, as well as diabetes. I just want to show you this example from of a product from another member, Solumeric. It's a liquefied version of curcumin, which improves bioavailability. And they are indicating this actually for pain management. So when you consume this, it reduces your inflammation in your joints, and therefore your pain is better managed. This is another compound, and I just want to use this as a reminder again to dispel the rumor. Doctors have been using glucosamine for easily 15 to 20 years to treat your patients with osteoporosis and joint problems. So who says doctors don't use supplements? What about probiotics? Another sexy product which hit the scene about 15 years ago. Now, research has shown that you need a balance of about 85 to 15% good bacteria versus bad bacteria in our gut for us to have to function effectively. And what are the benefits of this? Constipation and diarrhea. So you can forget about antacids. You can just start consuming this. The elderly can just start consuming this. Cognitive function. This is strange. This is very recent data. We have all heard the saying that you are what you eat. I guess this proves it. And you also have heard that the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But I say here now that you can improve your brain by doing something to your gut, by consuming probiotics. And it also improves in weight loss as well. There have been certain studies which show this. Diabetic patients, as well as absorption of nutrients. So that's why it has double benefits for the elderly. Another example, Bion 3 from another member of ours, you'll notice that it is made out of, it's a combination of 3 items: probiotics, vitamins, and minerals. We all know that the elderly have a problem with compliance with their medication. So this is 3 in 1. So therefore, they will get what they need without forgetting to take what they're supposed to take. CoQ10. Some of you may be using it with your statins, patients who are on statins. And there are 2 forms, ubiquinol and ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the one with the higher bioavailability, is the shorter chain. And the benefits are on heart failure. So this is an item which actually works on the mitochondria to boost the energy production, and therefore helps in the patient with heart failure so that their EF will be boosted. And also it has skin benefits. I want to move on to collagen. Earlier you saw that one of the categories of supplements in Malaysia growing very fast are healthy aging and beauty. Actually, it's caused by this compound. Collagen items are one of the biggest users. Now, I don't know whether it is mostly elderly or is it women in the 40s who are consuming this a lot. Wait for our results later. There are 3 types of collagen, type 1, 2, 3. I will not be going too much into that. What it does basically is, number 1, joint inflammation. So it reduces joint inflammation, and therefore pain medication can be reduced as well. And secondly, it promotes integrity of your skin. So skin infections can be reduced among the elderly as well. This is an example from another member of ours, J. Flexi, which is a type 2 version of undenatured collagen. You have probably also seen these kind of products, Lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin. All three of them have benefits on the eye, macular degeneration, as well as cataracts. Last but not least, I just want to briefly touch on this mineral. A lot of people have forgotten about minerals. That's why you saw that the minerals and vitamins category in Malaysia is actually just humming along. It's not growing at all. But new data has come out showing that magnesium has got benefits on heart, kidney, osteoporosis, and depression. And interestingly, all four of these are faced by elderly patients of yours. So the take-home message, doctors, is this. You would have seen that among the supplements that I projected out there, many of them have effects on many parts of your body. Unlike drugs, if you prescribe sildenafil to a patient, you would not expect them to grow hair. You know, it will only have one benefit, and that's about it. And so it is very different from drugs, and that's why there is a movement now in the US, either from the Tufts University or Duke University, where they are trying to change the way clinical trials are being done. In clinical trials, if you're familiar with it, or you should be familiar with it, you know that one element has got only one mode of action, or in one area, therapeutic area, usually, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. What you saw earlier is that one element can have, one substance can have effects on many parts of the body. So they're trying to change the way clinical trials are done, because the current way of doing clinical trials is obsolete for, or not appropriate for supplements. So hopefully, we will find new ways of doing clinical trials and therefore make it cheaper, and you will be able to get phase 3, or phase 2 and phase 3 trial results as well, to give you the confidence. Also, doctor, some of the things that you saw earlier did not exist when you started practice, whether it was 40 years ago or even 20 years ago. And more new stuff are being discovered. We don't know what the future holds. There's definitely going to be a lot of new studies, as I showed for magnesium, a lot of new products. And I wanted to just highlight one thing. 10 years ago, nobody was talking about andropause. It was something nobody really talked about. Today, there are even supplements for andropause. You have a testosterone analog, plant-derived, which you can use for elderly men so that they can lose weight, they can grow hair, their skin feel better, and they'll be more energetic. Similar versions also exist for postmenopausal or perimenopausal women as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude this presentation, I just want to ask you, is it already time for supplements to be your first line, not for all patients, but probably for the elderly patients or those who are becoming elderly? Should it be first line? And when it doesn't work, should you therefore start considering drugs? Because we always say that prevention is better than cure. So supplements prevent, drugs cure. So should that be the first line from now or coming up soon? And I'm pretty certain that probably in 10 years' time, that could possibly be the scenario. So I'd like to thank you very much. Or before I go into that, just wanted to give you a final word on this. How many of you are worried about the medicine price control that's coming up? I know you had a discussion, a town hall meeting with the Minister of Health, but let me just say, you do not need to worry about medicine price control, because today you have discovered that there is a way to supplement your income. No pun intended. Thank you so much for your attention.